Filthy Casualz.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to 3VO, where we are all on the same team. I'm one of your hosts, Brendan.
And I'm the other one, Jordan.
And if you're new here, we're just two big ol' nerds who just love to share our love and passion for video games. So if you too are a person who just loves video games and you'd like to share that with some like-minded people, you're in the right spot. As always, it's time to check in with each other. Jordan, what's up? How you doing?
I've been good. We got some pretty good news in the gaming world recently that I would like to talk about briefly.
What's going on?
For anybody who knows about what's been going on with Twitch lately, there's been a huge issue with what's been called the hate raids that have been happening.
Big issue. Yeah.
With it's been predominantly people of color on Twitch, LGBTQ plus or LGBTQ plus friendly people have just been getting overwhelmed with different accounts that are also
women too.
And
right?
excuse me, yes, thank you, and just women too. Have been getting overwhelmed on their channels with just like either accounts that create like a bunch of bots that just kind of go in on them and whatnot, and just like posting horrible derogatory, racist, sexist, just like disgusting shit.
Terrible stuff.
But this week or this last week, Twitch announced that they were actually going to be going after two of the major two main accounts that have been like big proponents on establishing the hate raids on people. So it's a small thing. It's gonna be hard. Because their best guess right now is that these guys are somewhere in Europe. Oh. That's the best guess they fucking got right now as far as where they're at.
That's a big net.
Yeah. Well, they're using a lot of technology to like make sure that they keep the location secret or whatnot. Because they don't actually believe in what they're doing. They're just fucking assholes and cowards.
Right.
But that's still a big step in terms of like getting a big corporation to actually like take a step towards helping out some of their smaller and more like and less mainstream people on their site and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So it's big and it's huge, and I was very excited to see that.
Absolutely. And if there's gonna start being like consequences to the actions that people are taking with this, then I'm sure people are gonna be a lot less inclined to actually participate in this shitty behavior.
100%.
Which is terrible. Like, you shouldn't do it whether or not there are consequences.
Yeah, you just shouldn't do it. You just shouldn't be doing it, period.
But we live in the age of the internet where it's all too easy to hide behind a keyboard and do shit like that. So I understand why so many people can feel brazen enough to participate in something like that. But I'm glad to see that justice is starting to be served.
Especially when it's just like, I hate it because like the technology is there, but you could be using that energy to actually like try to do something better with this.
Exactly.
Like, why do it to these people? Go raid a fucking, like, I don't know, do it to someone who's racist or someone shitty. Like, go bother them if you're gonna do this shit. Like, if you're gonna troll somebody who deserves to be fucking trolled.
Absolutely. It's really unfortunate that it's disproportionately affecting a lot of like you said, not impoverished, that's not the right word, marginalized,
there we go, yeah.
Marginalized groups, especially in the gaming community where like they're already like marginalized.
It's just another big, I mean, much broader issue in terms of like, just like internalized racism and the patriarchy and everything else involved. But it's just another segment of the gatekeeping issue that's in the gaming community that fucking drives me nuts. Yeah. Other than that though, I'm in a good place with my own personal gaming. We talked about it before. I hit a wall with Final Fantasy X that I can't go back to right now because I'm still mad. That game 12 minutes that you did try. Gave me an actual gave me a small panic attack. So I was like, I can't.
Oh no! I got pretty far. I got an ending.
I got an ending too.
I got the bad ending.
Bad ending. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Here's what I'm talking about. We're not doing a great sell, but try this game 12 minutes out. It's fascinating. It's such an interesting concept. So I highly recommend just trying it out. Then I remembered, I have a PlayStation with the Spider-Man game, and that game is fucking delightful. So I threw that back on.
We do like a delightful game.
And it's just, I've been having a blast just zipping around. Immediately started the game, and I came out my window and started zipping around New York City, and I was just like, I'm happy. And oddly serendipitous, because they just announced that Insomniac's doing the next Spider-Man title.
Excellent.
Along with, they're also doing a Wolverine game.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, both of them
Very
announced this
nice.
week, which I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. That'll be fun.
Very cool.
What's about you? What's happening in your life with gaming?
So, I had this like nostalgia kind of itch recently,
Okay.
and I wanted to play like Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh my god, yeah.
But
yeah.
I played Banjo-Kazooie a lot over the years.
Right.
But there's this like spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie called Yooka-Laylee.
Yes.
Are you familiar?
I'm familiar with ukulele.
Well, I wasn't 100% familiar, but I knew just looking at like the image for the game and the title, obviously. I was like, oh, this is very clearly like in the spirit of Banjo-Kazooie.
Yes.
So, and it was available on the Game Pass, so I was like, oh, I'll fire this up. Like, maybe it'll, help scratch that kind of nostalgia itch that I have, and it totally does.
Nice.
It is made exactly in the image of Banjo-Kazooie, like down to the tongue-in-cheek jokes and the character design and the font. Like, everything about it is made very much in the image of Banjo-Kazooie.
Well, it's the same team who made the Banjo-Kazooie games, I think, right?
I don't know.
I thought it was.
I haven't done any research.
Okay.
So Banjo-Kazooie is originally the Rareware team.
Yes.
Rare and Rareware. That team does not have credit on this game, but there is another vanity card at the beginning of the game that is in the same color scheme as the Rare logo. And has the vibe of the Rare logo. So I'm wondering if it's maybe not like an iteration of the Rare team.
Yeah.
I need to do some research into
Which
that.
I think, if I remember right, because I remember kind of hearing a little bit about it when it came out, because I think at one point, they're around again now because they're behind Sea of Thieves, I believe. But I think at one point, Rare did kind of go out for a minute there, sort of in the same vein as like what happened with Jesus, who's the company that makes all the Telltale? Fucking Telltale. Same thing that happened with Telltale. But now they're back in development and doing stuff because somebody bought that IP. I think it was a similar thing where it was Rare unfortunately went out, but now they're back with because somebody bought the IP.
Gotcha.
But at the time, that team made a different company to put out something like
Oh, okay. So it's the same team with a different name.
I think I could be 100% wrong on all of that.
It definitely bears some more research.
Yeah.
I definitely could see that.
But this is the Filthy Casual episode. We don't do research.
I did some research for this episode.
Okay, only half of us do research for the Casual episode.
All right, everybody. Now that that's all out of the way, it's time to dive into what we're here to talk about today. And for this episode of Filthy Casuals, we thought that it would be beneficial both for ourselves and for anybody listening to go over some just gaming slang and gaming terminology. So this is the Filthy Casuals 2 Gaming Glossary episode. So we're going to talk about some different genres of games. And we're going to talk about a lot of different terminology that people use in the gaming community. We're going to talk about some acronyms that maybe you don't know the definitions of. And this isn't meant to be like a definitive, end all be all, 100%. This is all you need to know about gaming forever and always. It's kind of like a beginner to intermediate list, I would call it. So it's definitely going to be some basic stuff that you're probably already familiar with, some good recap, and maybe some things that you've never heard about. Definitely, there were some things on this list that I had never heard about.
Yeah, same here.
And I was super jazzed to learn the term.
Yeah.
So we have a great episode for you. Stick around. Let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
So let's start just by defining the video game genres that we talk about. Let's define our terms, basically. Let's start at the top. RPG, role-playing game. It's exactly what you think it is, for the most part. So this is going to be a game where you have a character and you have probably an equipment system, inventory, stats. This is your typical setup for a role-playing game. In recenter times, I would say with the advent of Mass Effect onward, you have a lot of dialogue choices and you can actively role play as that character, wherein RPGs around that time, it was more linear.
Yeah, RPGs before, more than anything, I'd probably say before Mass Effect and before something like a Fallout 3 or something like that, because even that had a bit more of a wider variety for like dialogue options. It was RPG kind of letting a bit more in terms of like the class you were playing in whatever game you're in. So if you were playing like an old, well, no, because even Oblivion existed before Mass Effect and stuff. But like to use that as an example, if you were like in an Oblivion style game or something like that, that would lend more towards like, okay, well, you're playing this style of character, and that means you have like these stats to work with, and but that means you don't get magic, or you do get more magic, but less weapons, and da-da-da-da-da. That's the way that I always kind of saw the RPG realm for a long time.
Now, this is like a very like honed-in definition of RPG. You could say that a lot of different games are RPGs.
Arguably, almost any game you play is technically an RPG. Like you're playing the role of somebody that isn't you.
Exactly. So now there are definitely some games where you can definitively say like, no, that is not an RPG.
Right.
But it's nebulous. It's hard. It's kind of hard to define. I would say like Mario games, not really an RPG. I would say, you know.
That perspective is more like you're in control of a different character than you are sort of like inserting yourself into the narrative, I guess.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas like this is my representation of me in the game as I would like to see it. And it's like a Fallout or a Mass Effect kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I like that actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Because even I've always been like, well, if you argue it, anything's a fucking RPG. But something like a Mario wouldn't necessarily be an RPG. Or even like a Banjo-Kazooie arguably isn't really an RPG.
Not really.
That's an established character in the world.
Yes, exactly. And they have like clearly defined dialogue that is going to be the same every time you play it. The story is the same every time you go through it. Like, there's no differences. So that's that is like the hallmarks of an RPG. This leads us to something else you've probably heard of, which is an MMO. MMO is just massively multiplayer online game. Lots of games fall into this. RuneScape is the
kind of the one of the OGs.
Yeah, exactly. I played RuneScape back in the day.
I never got into RuneScape. It was never my thing. I'm just not really big into MMOs.
No,
that's never been my jam.
Me either, not really. But everybody in middle school was playing RuneScape.
Right.
So you know I was playing RuneScape.
Only one I got into was Diablo 2. I did Diablo 2 but that's not even a massive online multiplayer.
Yeah.
So not really. Oh. That's the closest I ever got to playing one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because like in today's terms, MMO is defined as like hundreds or even thousands of players on a single server interacting together or able to interact.
Yeah. So this would be your Battlegrounds, your Fortnites, or like anything else that kind of or before that it was PlanetSide 2, stuff like that.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft, definitely, for sure.
Things like that.
But even that is on a smaller scale now, because I think World of Warcraft, your party is limited to like 16 to 20 or something like that.
You can still interact with the other people, though.
That's true.
That's really what it comes down to.
You're right. You're right. No, you're right.
Not necessarily you're in a party, but you have this big server, and lots of people can be in that server and in the world, and you can see them when you walk past the same point as that person.
You are correct.
Right.
I got you. Okay. That makes sense. I got you. See, we're learning.
This is an education.
I love it.
And then, of course, you have MMORPGs, which is exactly what you think it is. It's an RPG. It's an MMO style.
That is World of Warcraft.
That is World of Warcraft.
That is the prime best example as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of crossover. You know, all of these terms that we're going to use to define genres are very, like, there's many Venn diagrams.
Oh, God, yeah.
A lot of intersectionality.
As gaming becomes more and more complex and you get different philosophies and ideas that go into it, the trying to specify what genre certain games fit into is really difficult. Because, like, to use one as an example, we mentioned earlier, like something like Fallout 3, you could also put it in another one on here. You could put that in FPS.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, easily.
And it is, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, you're one thing and you're one thing only. I think maybe 30 years ago that was the
100% the case.
The case. Yeah. But nowadays, as video games become more complex, not so much.
Yeah.
The next one I have on my list is FPS. So go ahead and tell us about it.
FPS, that's pretty standard. That would be the way that I was communicating, for example. So like that would be that'd be Doom, that'd be Halo, that's your Wolfensteins.
Absolutely.
Like it is, you have a set number of game mechanics, and you were through the first person lens of whatever character you're playing as. And typically also I wouldn't put these in like the RPG category for the most part, because like an example like Halo, you're playing the Master Chief and he has a set dialogue. The story's going to be pretty linear every single time you play it. and you are playing as the Master Chief. You are not able to sort of influence who this character is.
Right, exactly. So that's FPS. You also have third-person shooters. Third-person shooters are going to be like Mass Effect. Third-person shooter.
Yep. Also commonly known as an OTS, over the shoulder, at hour times and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, it's all considered third-person shooter, right? Yeah. Which means that games like Diablo, also third-person shooters.
Would it be a third person, or would it?
It is top down.
Top down counts as third
Counts
person.
as third person shooter. Yeah, that's what I know. It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right, but arguably it is the third person perspective on the. Okay, well, that makes sense. Okay,
and it answers the question that I've always had, which is, what the heck kind of genre is this game? I know it's an RPG, but like, what's the style of that top down? Blast into enemies thing, because it's like mob style. Because you're fighting hordes of enemies.
Yeah.
But it's also third-person shooter.
It's okay, fair enough.
Which means that Mass Effect and Diablo are the same kind of game.
Yeah. I think where I get stuck on stuff like that is just like growing up, sort of understanding it as a certain style of game. Because like when you say third-person shooter, to me, I jump to like a Gears of War or Resident Evil 4 or something like that. That's more where I don't think of a top-down as being a third-person shooter, but technically, yeah, it is.
It's just one of those interesting things where what's the term then? If it's different enough, which I think it is.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. If it's different enough, what's the term?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Let us know. If you've got the answer.
Yeah, if you've got the answer, let us know in the comments. All right, so we're going to move on. Next genre we're going to talk about is platformer. This is a pretty basic idea, and lots of games can be considered platformer. Basically, if you've got a character that's moving, running, jumping, climbing around, and interacting with a lot of different leveled platforms, that's a platformer.
Yeah.
This is your classic Super Mario Brothers. This is Hollow Knight.
Yep.
Arguably. Anything in the Metroidvania series, or not series, but category could be considered a platformer, I would think.
But even in a more modern setting, like the remakes of the Tomb Raider games, the Uncharted series, that's running, jumping, climbing, so those are also platformers.
I would not disagree with you. But yeah, classically platformer is like Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, that's a Super Mario, it's Castlevania, that is...
In the same vein, back in the day, a lot of platformers used to be side-scrollers. This is exactly what you think it is. It is, you've got left and right, and maybe some, like, vertical, but not any 3-dimension. You have, like, you're looking, like, at an elevation of the, world or level or whatever.
Yeah.
You've got your character on there, and you move from left to right.
Yeah. Your objective is to get from point A to point B, and it is just going left to right. And that formula has stayed true all the way through side-scrollers. Like, I've never seen one that goes, no, go left.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it would be way too, like, daunting for players.
So. I'm sure it's out there.
I'd be like, I don't want to go that way. That feels wrong.
Until you cross into Metroidvania, which is a little bit different.
A little bit different, for sure.
Which we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get on there.
So I have also auto-scroller, just to throw a little bit in. An auto-scroller is a side-scroller that is progressing slowly at an automatic pace that you can't stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any examples for that? Because I can't even think of it.
Yeah, okay, so imagine, are you familiar with the game Cuphead?
Oh, yes. Okay, got you.
Okay, not all the levels, I don't think, but, because I haven't played Cuphead. But there's some, like, levels where, like, I think you're, like, in a little airplane or something, and the right side is going.
Always moving,
always moving.
I see what you mean.
Auto-scroller.
I see what you mean. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
We are learning. This is a category of game that falls under RTS. So let's talk about RTS first. RTS stands for real-time strategy. Basically, that means you are in, like, active time. The timer doesn't stop. You don't take turns. It's as fast as you can do the things is as fast as you can do the things. So a real-time strategy, I think the quintessential one is like Starcraft or Warcraft.
Yes.
Not World of Warcraft, but Warcraft.
Yeah.
You know, where you're dropped in, you've got a little base, and you have to collect resources and build up and build troops, and then go find your enemy and shoot them dead. That is your classic real-time strategy. There's also, like, a lot of war games, artillery games that are in the similar vein.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
a lot of people know what Starcraft is. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it makes sense. It's you're dropped into a situation. You have set goals that is just like establish a base, build up armaments, build up defenses, get troops out, that kind of thing.
So that's RTS. Subsequent to that, you have games that are considered the 4X category. Have you heard of 4X?
I actually have not.
Okay, I'm sure you've heard of some of the games that are like this.
Probably.
So 4X refers to 4 criteria that a game kind of has to meet to make it a 4X.
Okay.
Those 4 criteria are explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate.
Ooh, okay. Oh,
So
okay.
this is like your games like Civilization.
Yeah.
Now I've never played Civilization. I don't know if that's RTS. I think it's turns, isn't it? I feel like it's turns. But that's the idea, is that it's a strategy game.
Yeah.
It's a strategy game wherein you are building, exploring, expanding, and then eventually you're going to kill your opponent dead.
Yeah.
So that's a 4X game, which is, a genre I had never heard of.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Cool.
Not really my cup of tea, but like...
No, 100% not my cup of tea at all. RTS and 4X both are just like, nope.
I like RTS. I like some RTS. Like Starcraft, I really like. I really enjoy Starcraft.
I can't do it. The problem is with me. It's nothing against the genre itself. It's just that it's not my cup of tea, man.
I understand. Do you get like pressured?
Yeah,
Because
it's too much pressure because it's like I'm focusing on something down here and then I get the alert up top that's like they're in your fucking base and I'm like, no! And I hate it.
You must construct additional pylons.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So next on the list is your simulation games. Shortened to sim. This is your classic, like Animal Crossing. The
Sims is a prime example.
Sims, probably the most famous example. The Sims. These are, I would say, they fall under casual gaming for the most part. But this is anything that simulates like life or even like just like driving a car. Like truck simulator, goat simulator.
Which is insane how big that section of this genre is to me, of just like people who buy like fucking 1 year Farm Simulator was one of the highest selling games of that year.
People want a casual game.
I understand, but it's nuts to me. What's like, why would you want to fantasize about that?
There was no Animal Crossing that year. I don't know if that's actually true, but
Probably
not. So simulation, very straightforward. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about RPGs. Along that vein, we have adventure games. Now, an adventure game is not necessarily an RPG, although I feel like there is a lot of overlap with the two genres.
I was going to say, I feel like within just like the general idea of adventure game, you tend to get a lot of other subsets in there, because like this could also be like a third person or even just like a platformer or something that is in there too.
Yeah. So for the example that I have for adventure games that is like just bare like this is just an adventure game is Myst.
Okay, yeah.
That's an adventure game.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not really that character. You're kind of going through the story, but you're not, like you said, putting yourself into the narrative. And you're not like fighting. You're not running, jumping, climbing. It's just you're adventuring.
Yeah,
that's Myst. So that's the example that I have for adventure games. There's a lot of crossover.
Oh god, yeah.
There's a lot of crossover.
That's the thing, is that at a certain point, even going back like 10 years, a lot of these titles and like these like sort of like stamps we put on these games, it becomes arbitrary at a certain point.
Oh, absolutely.
You're just like, sure, I guess this is technically an adventure game, but it also falls into a bunch of other subcategories and whatnot too.
And the way that one person might consider a game might not necessarily be the way that another person considers it. Or categorizes it.
Very, very true.
Yeah. So then we have action games. Action games are just games that require action.
Yeah.
Cuphead, action game.
Yeah.
Also a platformer, and also what you could call like a bullet nightmare.
Yes.
But action is just a very broad category. It just means something's happening, and you've got to react to it. The quintessential action game is Pong.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It's an action game and it's not anything else.
Yeah, that's it. You have one goal.
Yeah.
And it is simply laid out. Yeah.
So then, moving on, in sort of the adventure category, we have roguelike and roguelite.
Okay.
So there's this game from the 80s called Rogue.
Yes.
You basically play as a character, and you're kind of doing this like dungeon crawl through procedurally generated like rooms.
Yeah.
That is kind of like the Rogue. That's Rogue. Rogue. Any game that comes after that like kind of emulates that style is roguelike.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of takes some of those aspects, but then also imparts others, that's roguelite.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. The two terms are so similar, though, that I feel that the definition has gotten very muddled over the years, you know? So, I take this with a grain of salt. You know, if somebody's referring to a roguelike, it might actually be a roguelite, and vice versa. Don't be too pedantic about it.
So within this would probably be stuff like your Dishonored's, your Assassin's Creed's, kind of like stuff like that, maybe? Or
not necessarily so much. It's more like Dead Cells.
Oh, okay, gotcha. More like gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you're going through like levels and levels, and it's kind of procedurally generated.
I see.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Dead Cells would be considered a roguelite because you also are managing like the inventory system.
Right.
You know, things like that.
Gotcha.
Technically, to be technical. You know, and I'm sure somebody will be like, actually,
excuse me,
okay. Next category, next genre is a genre very near and dear to both of our hearts: survival horror.
Fuck yes!
Tell us more, Jordan.
Survival horror, for me, at least from my understanding and the way that I've played it, is anything in which that your main goal in it isn't necessarily to kill, like. To put it in context, basically, if you play something like a Halo, your goal is to, in each area, is to kill all the enemies and get to the next goal, basically. Something like a survival horror, you get into an area and your goal is just to get through that area without dying.
Get to the next area.
Get to the next area. Don't die. It's not about killing everything.
Yeah.
It's about finding what equipment you can to make sure you survive and getting through the next area. This is your Resident Evils, your Silent Hills, your Dead Spaces. Like, this is, your Outlast is a prime example of survival horror.
Is like, I feel like Outlast is like survival horror.
Definition survival horror, because you cannot kill anything.
Else. Right, you literally can't.
Yeah, so that is like that is textbook survival horror.
Absolutely. Arguably also adventure, but like,
Arguably, but like, I feel like, for me, adventure feels more like Uncharted. Like, there's a thrill to like, I'm doing this thing and I'm exploring and I'm looking around. Whereas in survival horror, the feeling is like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Metroidvania. So
this is probably the one I'm the least familiar with because I played a little bit of Metroid when I was a kid. I never fucked around with Castlevania, so just like any of the subgenres that kind of spawn from that, I'm wholly unfamiliar with.
Okay, so a Metroidvania comes from obviously Metroid and Castlevania. The idea being that you have, instead of like that 2D like scroller, like the side scroller that we had come from.
Yes.
We've advanced a little bit and now we have a very like large map and sub areas that we can get to.
Right.
And we platform our way through and maybe we go over here and get an ability that, now we can get past that wall over here that we couldn't get past before. And then we go in there and beat a boss and we get a new thing and now we can blow up this part of the wall or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you're traversing and often backtracking a lot over a large map.
It's sort of taken the platformer and going, what if it wasn't just about going left to right?
Yes. Yeah. Let's give it an actual environment.
Right.
And let's put things in that you need to get this in point A so that you can get to point B so that you can go back to point A and get further in point, things like that.
Yeah.
So this is, again, Metroid and Castlevania. More recently, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yep. Fucking great games.
And even Dead Cells
absolutely.
Aspects of this because there's definitely, you have to get to this area and get this rune before you can get into the secret area over here or the sub area over here. So there's definitely aspects of Metroidvania in Dead Cells. Just to make it relevant to something we've covered on the podcast. Next up, sports games.
Football, basketball,
sports games.
other football. That's it.
Madden.
Madden. There you go. Sports. You're playing a sport game.
There's not much more we need to say
Yeah.
about that.
I think you get it. You're playing sports.
You also have puzzle games. This is very casual. You know, this is like your Bejeweled, your Candy Crush.
Is it only stuff like that?
Well, okay, so lots of RPGs and adventure games are going to have puzzles in them,
Yeah.
but they're not a puzzle game.
Okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Well, then where would you put? Okay, because like where would you put something like? Because arguably it's a third-person game, but the main thing is you're solving puzzles. Where do you put something like a Portal game?
That
is solving puzzles.
That is a third-person puzzle game.
Okay. Hell, hey, I'm fine with that.
First-person puzzle game?
First person. To be
First
first person. Yes.
I haven't actually played Portal.
What?
Okay.
No. Okay. No. This
I
can't.
haven't.
You would love. You would
Oh,
love.
no.
Portal.
I've watched you play it, and I've seen a lot of it, and I understand that the cake is a lie.
The cake is a lie. No, but you would love Portal. You
Oh,
would
yeah, no,
absolutely love
I know I would.
Portal.
It's just one that I'm waiting for it to come up on the Game Pass.
I can't believe it's not on Game Pass.
I know.
That's shocking to me. It's
I
going to be
think-
on Steam.
I think there's something Portal related on the Game Pass, but it's like Portal Bridges. Or
That's a different thing. I don't
Yeah, I
even know
know,
what that
that's-
game
I
is. I haven't looked at it because I just went, nah, I'm good.
Anyway, so yeah, a puzzle game I'm gonna say is like something that is like you play a puzzle repeatedly over and over.
Fair enough.
You know. And then idle gaming, which is more common on like mobile.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
This is something that's like, okay, when I put it down and I'm not actively playing the game, something is still happening. I'm like collecting some resources
Yeah.
or, you know, earning coins or like whatever. And then I come back and it's like, oh, you know, made 1 billion coins in 1 hour. Woo! Buy things, you know? That's your idle game.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of all of the genres that I could come up with.
I think it's a pretty good list. And obviously, again, this is where you get into the discussion of like the subgenres and like where everything else comes into play. And like, well, technically it's this and blah, blah, blah. But I think this is a pretty good like standard for like what I like about this idea when you told me about it is that it's like, to me, if I was somebody who felt very nervous about getting into gaming and like getting into the culture of it and whatnot and kind of like jumping in and going like, I don't know what any of these fucking terms mean at all. But it's kind of a good like way to get someone like introduced to the idea,
absolutely.
basically.
Like I said, this is like beginner to intermediate.
Yes.
You know, there's obviously subgenres and subgenres.
Yeah, it gets way more
of,
complicated.
like,
It gets so much more
all of
complicated.
these. But these are like the big ideas.
Yeah.
And even there's a lot of like nebulousness and
Oh, yeah.
you know, overlap with these. So
Yeah.
I think these are very sufficient.
Like with any art genre, basically once you get into the weeds of it, you kind of go like, okay,
Yeah.
well, where does this go if I have to categorize it?
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's all I have for the genres. You want to start diving into some of these terms?
Absolutely. Let's do some
And
of
we're
the
going to go
terms.
through some of these fast because, like, a lot of these you're probably going to know, or it's going to be like an acronym that you just didn't know what it stood for, but you knew what it meant, you know, things like that. So
Yeah.
we're just going to kind of
Yeah.
roll through these.
Yeah, so we're going to start off pretty complex here. Let's go into DLC. That is downloadable content.
I wanted to make it very approachable. to
No, for
everybody.
sure. No, I get it. I totally get it. I'm being an asshole.
This is for everybody.
No, I'm being an asshole.
Next term is Easter egg. This is exactly what it sounds like. This is something fun that you can find in the game. It has no bearing on the story typically or
Yeah.
the gameplay. It's just a fun thing that you can find hidden somewhere, like a message or an image.
Do you know the etymology of the term Easter egg, though, and how it came up?
The Easter Bunny?
No. Well, kind of. Weirdly enough.
Tell me more.
It was, from what I know, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I know, it started with the first Rocky Horror Picture Show movie that came out, was that while they did the movie, they shot it during Easter, and they had an Easter egg hunt on set, but they didn't find all of them. So in the background of some of the shots, you see some of the Easter eggs that are still like hidden throughout. So as far as I know, and it became like a game because like it's a cult movie that people go and watch and do goofy shit during. So it became the game to spot the Easter eggs.
That sounds fake.
In the movie. That's the explanation that I fucking got. If somebody wants to tell me I'm wrong,
I'm gonna have to watch Rocky Horror.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
So
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Sounds like propaganda for the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I'd say that's weird propaganda, but it's Rocky Horror. Someone would totally track. So be like, what's the goofiest way we can get people interested in watching our movie?
What you got next?
Next, we have HUD heads-up display. This prime example would be like in Halo. This is like your health bar and your armor and like your ammo count, all that stuff. That's what gets displayed there.
Yeah, so anything that's on your screen that is telling you information about the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your crosshairs, your health, your magic, whatever it might be for the game. Cool. Next up, I'm going to cover some speedrunning.
Yes, you go for it because I know nothing about this.
I wanted to include the speedrunning because I find speedrunning fascinating.
It's really cool.
Knowing a lot about it helps me enjoy it more, I think.
Yeah.
So
we spent a day together where he was just playing videos for me, and I was just getting very mad watching the great games that I love.
It's both maddening and fascinating.
He showed me one for Arkham Asylum, and the dude just like did that little, like, everyone knows for speedrunning, he did like the glitch into the wall and ended up in a totally different section, and I was just like, he just skipped like 4 hours of the game.
So, to anybody out there that might not know, there's a very popular style of playing through games called speedrunning. It means exactly what you think it is. It's running through the game as fast as you can, either to, get to the credits or under, a set of like a given set of restrictions or certain criteria that have to be met. There's a lot of different categories. And some of those categories are any percent, 100%, and low percent. That's kind of like your main three. So any percent is basically just get to the end of the game. Get to the credits. Or, in some games it's like deal the final blow against the final boss. Something like that. That's time. It just kind of depends on the game. But any percent means that you can get as many or as little of all of the collectibles or the items or the this, that, the other, whatever it might be for that game. Just do it as fast as you can.
Yeah. Or like an example would be like the speed run for Mass Effect 2 that you and I watched a little bit of. It was like, get through it, but do it with the whole crew alive still.
Yes, so that would be like No Man Left Behind category. So there's a lot of different categories. As you can see. And it's all a lot of them are tailored specifically to each game. These are the three that kind of are applicable to pretty much any game that you're going to speed run.
Right.
So that's any percent is just get to the end. 100% is get everything. So anything, and typically it's defined for each game, but the baseline is like anything that can show up in your inventory or you can collect a certain number of to max it out. You have to get all of that before you beat the game. That's 100%. Yeah. So like Legend of Zelda speedruns. It's like get everything that you can in your inventory, all of the items, all of the bottles, all of the songs, all of the medallions, everything. Right. Anything that shows up in your inventory. And then beat the game. That's 100% in 6 hours. Yeah.
Jesus.
And then low percent is kind of the opposite idea of that. It's like try to get through the game with as little of your inventory as you possibly can, as fast as you can.
So this would be like trying to get through a game as quickly as you can, but with like the most limited number of items.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff that you can.
Yeah. So in like Ocarina of Time speedruns, utilizing glitches, of course. You can get out of Kokiri Woods, which is the first area, pretty quick. Head straight up into the castle, glitch into the area where the Master Sword is, get the Master Sword, become an adult, and then probably glitch your way into the final fortress. I don't actually know the speedrunning route. Actually, no, wait, I'm so sorry. I do. You don't do any of that. You actually wrong warp out of the Deku Tree, the first dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
You wrong warp out of the boss room, and it puts you at the final fortress. Because the 64 was broken.
And I will also say though that this also speaks to just like where people find their familiarity in gaming. Because you just said become an adult, like it's a totally normal thing to say.
In Ocarina of Time, it is
100%. No, in that world, it totally makes sense. It's still something that for me, someone who's less familiar with Zelda, is still just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Okay.
Some acronyms. WR in speedrunning is world record. PB is personal best. So a lot of speedrunners are just trying to get better than their personal best. Because world record might be a long ways away, or they're not even trying for that.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get better and beat their own personal best. OOB stands for out of bounds, which is kind of what you were referring to earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of glitches utilizing clipping out of bounds and then getting back into bounds so as to skip a major section, say 4 hours of Arkham Asylum.
And now, I'm not really into speedrunning. However, though, for me, this is not OOB, it is OOB.
Oh, yeah, OOB. first we go oob, and then we get back in. A lot of things that can mess up a speedrun are the like assorted things that are dependent on RNG. RNG is random number generator. It just means the randomosity of the game. So it's, does this opponent move left or right?
Yeah.
Or, where is the platform floating by the time I get to it? Sometimes that's determined by RNG. Sometimes it's just on a cycle. Just depends.
Yeah.
So speedrunners will refer to getting good RNG, and sometimes they will pray to RNGesus.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
Yeah,
RNGesus.
Yeah, RNGesus.
I mean, it makes sense because back in the day when I was playing Left 4 Dead a lot, there was a whole thing of just like how the AI in the game would like randomly send a horde after you or send a random like special infected after you and whatnot. So we would often start games praying to the AI, asking it to be kind to us. So I can't say it's totally out there. Yeah.
Some games, you have to actively affect the RNG too to like get a good run. Like this is really prevalent in like Pokemon games where you have to go through stretches of tall grass wherein Pokemon can jump out at you and like slow you down. Yeah. So and that's wild to me because especially on like the DS games, it's like, first we like open the console and we start it up and we set the time to this. And then we reset the console, and then we open it up again, and then we start the game.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, to affect the RNG so that they get... Yeah, it's wild. Not something I am interested in.
Absolutely not. God bless you if you're into that and you want to do it. Like, thank you so much, but...
A couple of other terms that you might hear get thrown around. There's soft lock versus hard lock. So soft lock in a game is where... you're still playing the game, it's still accepting inputs, and like it's not frozen or stopped, but you've gotten yourself to a point where you can't progress. So this happens a lot if you're like utilizing glitches, or maybe you especially in like Zelda games, like, I skipped getting this item to save time, and then I clipped out of bounds, and then I got in, and now I'm in this weird spot, and I can't break down this block because I didn't pick up the hammer. Something like that.
Right.
I'm totally making this up, but that's what a soft block is. It's like you're not frozen, you're not locked, but you are.
Yeah.
You just can't progress anymore. Versus a hard lock, which is where like the game like stops.
Just done.
Game is like frozen. It.
Oh yeah.
Glitches out. It happened all the time on the 64. Especially if you're doing crazy things like clipping out of bounds and falling out of bounds, things like that. Yeah. The game will just go, we can't deal with that.
Oh, you mean if you break the game, sometimes the game will actually freak out and not work anymore?
Exactly.
Weird how that happens.
Crazy, I know. The last term that I have is TAS, T-A-S. This stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun. A TAS run or a TAS bot run of a game is meant to be like the ideal, perfect speedrun of the game because a computer is running it.
Yeah, okay.
So it is frame perfect. It is programmed to run through the game 100% perfectly and ideally have the best, time, the best world record.
Gotcha, okay.
But it's a bot running it, so it's more of a thought experiment, I suppose you could say.
Doesn't officially count, but this is like, if everything works perfectly and you have something that knows the mechanics 100%, it's as good as it can get.
Exactly. If you were 100% perfect, your movement was perfect, you were frame perfect every time, like this is like the ideal. At least that's kind of the idea behind it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And that can be really cool to see on like classic games that we're familiar with, like the Mario games and stuff like that.
Just watch something just burn through it in like 20 minutes, if that.
Yeah. And that's what I have for speedrunning terms.
I like it. I like it though, because that's definitely an area that I'm very unfamiliar with. I have a lot of respect for it, but I've just always been kind of like unfamiliar with it. So then, sorry, where did we leave off? It was tool assisted speedrun, correct?
Yeah.
So then next we have is AOE or area of effects.
Area of effects.
Pretty standard, just like if you're using like in a game like Diablo or World of Warcraft, you're using a magic spell of some kind. This would be the area that you use it in. Or like if you know D&D, it's the same thing. You have like a 30-foot circle or square or radius that you're sort of using the spell effect in.
Yeah, that's more to explain the acronym. If you don't know what AOE is, it stands for area of effect. Now you probably know exactly what it is. That's what a lot of these are, is like just acronyms, you know, that
are pretty
make you
self-explanatory.
like second guess. You're like, what? But then when you hear it, you're like,
oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Same with our next one, DPS, damage per second. Pretty standard if you hit someone with like an acid bullet or effect or something like that. That's the damage that's racking up.
How much damage? Exactly.
Yeah. I didn't know this one. GLHF. Good luck, have fun.
Yeah, good luck.
It's delightful. I like
great,
it.
right?
And I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's just that's it.
It's just something you drop in the chat, maybe at the beginning of a round or something. GLHF.
Yeah.
Good luck, have fun. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I think it's delightful.
Yeah.
There's also a podcast that I listen to that's called Good Luck High Five, because
That's fun.
one of the hosts legitimately thought that GLHF was Good Luck High Five when she started playing Magic
Oh
Online.
my god! This is like the people who you hear the stories online of people who like send gifts or like send flowers for a funeral and they put LOL on it because they thought it meant lots of love.
It's kind of like that, but not as terrible.
That was more fun. Yours is more fun for sure. Oh my god! And then we can put these two together. You have
HP and
MP, which is health points versus mana points.
Exactly.
Health points pretty easy to understand.
Or hit points, magic points, mana
yeah.
points, whatever the game might call it. But that's
Yeah.
how much you can get hit for and how much you can use your abilities.
Yeah, pretty much. And then mod. I'm guessing this is just like modifying a game. Doing stuff like that.
Mod just means, a modification that's been made to the game so that like
a big one that I see is people think the game like there's a lot of mods in Skyrim.
Oh yeah.
And the big one that I see is that they replaced the dragon with Thomas the Tank
How
Engine.
was that? I was hoping you were gonna say
just every time it's
So
so
dumb.
good. It's so stupid and I fucking love it so much.
I like to see the videos where Thomas comes in and then it's like the like not oversaturated, but like the sound of Thomas is like the music.
Yeah.
It's like, brum, brum,
Yeah,
brum,
but
brum.
it's just like they crank like the
Yeah.
And this one for me is a little bit bittersweet because for me it started off as something a bit more kind, but it's kind of been turned to an insult. Is noob, either spelled NOOB or NEWB.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I start, basically this stands for anyone who's new to playing
New to a game.
any game.
Yeah.
And for me, to start off when I started playing Halo, especially started playing Halo Online, was that you kind of jump into the chat online and can go like, "Hey guys, kind of a noob, so just like give me some leeway here, like give me some forgiveness if I'm not doing great." And it was just a way to understand. It's like, okay, this guy's kind of new.
Yeah.
We're not gonna rip him, do him too much.
Yeah.
Versus like if someone like 5 or 6 years down the line when I was playing Halo, you could give me a bit more flack if I sucked at a game.
Yeah.
Or if I sucked at a match and whatnot, because like I should know what the fuck I'm doing at that point. But like if you're a noob, it was understood as kind of like, all right, this guy's kind of new to the game. Let's not give him too much shit. Now it's just become another gatekeeping tool and an insult.
Yeah.
Where it's just kind of like a fucking noob.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like, really?
I have a theory. If the person is spelling it NOOB and you kind of think that maybe they're not using it as like a pejorative, I think that you're good. I think it's like used in that like kind of kind way.
A little bit more of a nicer, like, okay.
But if it's very clear that they're using it as a pejorative, or they spell it NEWB Z typically, then they're an asshole. They're being a jerk.
I just saw a thing, and I think I might have sent you, or I might have sent my buddy Cody the clip, where it was somebody and they were playing Overwatch, and this dude was just like ripping into their player, just kind of like, I mean, if you're new, that's fine, but like keep that shit out of ranked. And this other dude, God bless him, ripped into it, was kind of like, dude, shut up. He's learning the game, he's playing it. None of us are pros. Like, stop being a dick about this. Just let the guy have fun. He's not going to want to keep playing if people keep being dicks to him about this shit.
Yes.
Made a very, very good point. Just wanted to shout that out real quick.
Yeah.
Then we got NPC, which is your non-playable character.
Non-playable.
That's pretty much anyone you interact with in a game that you can't like control the actions of.
Right. Exactly.
XP, EXP. This is experience. That's experience points in the game.
Points, whatever.
That's just it. Aggro. I'm unfamiliar. Maybe you should handle this term because it's not something that I ever get while playing games.
So this can be used kind of as a noun too.
Yes.
And that's I think kind of more the popular use in like gaming lingo.
Yeah.
Managing aggro specifically.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing a mob game or you're playing like a team sort of like battle like online kind of game and you've got like a bunch of like things bearing down on you, you want to manage aggro, which means manage the aggressiveness or the aggression that's coming towards you.
Right.
That's kind of what aggro means. You want to talk about Leroy Jenkins?
Well, first, this is the one you have to say right, because it's not Leroy
Oh, I'm
Jenkins.
so sorry.
It is Leroy Jenkins. This is most commonly, the basis for it is that it is somebody in a game who just abandons the plan, just rushes headfirst into the situation with no preamble, and it comes from this. Here's the thing about what I love about this: this clip still holds strong. It's awesome to see.
Yeah.
I believe it's in WoW. It's in World of Warcraft.
I believe it's in World of Warcraft. It's either that or League of Legends, but I believe
one of the two. But I'm pretty sure it's World of Warcraft. And you're watching.
Oh, you know what? It is World of Warcraft because they went on to make it an NPC in World of Warcraft.
Yes, you're right. You're right. But you're watching this party of 12 or 15 dudes about to head into this really, really rough dungeon area, and they're getting on the plans. They're going through all of it. If you also want an example of watching people who know the lingo and just going through it like it's nothing.
Oh yeah,
it's a prime example because they're just okay, what's your DPS? What's this? Just going through it all, and then just as they're making the plan, one dude almost he gets back on the keyboard, just goes, "All right, let's do this," and just shouts his name, which is Leroy Jenkins, and just rushes in, and you watch the rest of the players did he just? Oh my God! Just go! Because it's once you're in, you just have to fucking go.
Yeah.
It's the best. Oh, and he's unapologetic too. So at least I got my chicken. Is the other famous line.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
So if you're being a Leroy Jenkins, maybe evaluate what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh well, no. Sometimes it's good to be the Leroy Jenkins because you can get bogged down and just kind of well, how do we? Hey, guess who plays the barbarian? I mean, but also guess in our campaign who has the most kills. Anyway, no. Okay, fine. Who's got the bigger kills?
I had the 99 damage turn.
I killed a tree that was trying to kill us.
99 damage.
He did recently. He did 99 damage in one turn. It was fucking across multiple enemies, but still, it was fucking incredible. Then we got F in the chat.
Do you know the origin of this?
I do not.
Oh, okay, great. I'd be happy to enlighten you.
Please.
So we know what it means now, right?
Yeah.
People say it. It's kind of like an inside meme joke.
Yeah.
It's can I get an F in the chat when something sad or bad happens on stream, especially. Chat will just spam just F. And you might think it means fail or something, but okay, here's where it comes from. So back in the day, Call of Duty in game, there's a scene where the character is at a funeral.
Oh, I do know where it comes from.
Okay, you do know where it comes from. Okay. And at one point there's a quick time event and it says press F to pay respects. If you're on a computer.
It's worse than that. It's worse to mourn.
No, I saw screenshots.
I played the game.
No, are you sure it was?
I'm 90% sure it's to mourn.
We'll get the receipts. Maybe it's different console to PC though.
Could be. You're right. I played on console. You're right.
Because it only says press F to pay respect on PC. It's going to say press X on a console or triangle or whatever.
That's fair. But basically, it's the worst because you press the button and then you really just put your hand on the casket.
Anyway, so that it was totally memed because it was this is really fucked up. This is so dumb.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's so insane that's a command in a game to make someone do.
And then it developed into what it is now, which is drop an F in the chat when something happens.
Yeah. This one I've never heard of, but I can guess. Hackuzation.
Yeah, what do you think it means?
I'm assuming that means that you're accusing somebody of hacking.
Yeah. So typically you wouldn't, be the person that is doing the accusing wouldn't be I have a hackuzation. That's not how it would go. It's more of a dismissive way that the person who's being accused would refer to the accusations. And you're absolutely right. It's oh, people think that I'm cheating or using hacks, typically in first-person shooters, or
you'll hear a lot on Twitch streams. It's oh, this guy's hacking. I call hacks that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Hackusations.
Yeah.
No scope.
That is just, from what I know anyway, that is just hitting somebody with either a weapon that would normally require a scope on it, like a sniper rifle, or in something that you would normally aim down the sights of. You just don't do when you manage to get just a really good shot off.
Yeah. You would also refer to this as shooting from the hip.
Yes.
But that's very long, and no scope sounds cooler.
No scope does sound cooler. I don't know Coyote Time.
This is my favorite. I was so happy to learn this term. So, especially in platformers, there's just a little bit of hang time when you're running off of a platform that the game allows you to input the jump.
I see.
So that you feel like you got the jump at the last possible second to get the best distance on your jump.
Okay.
Those 1 or 2 frames when you're actually not on the platform, but still allowed to put the input for the jump in and get your jump is referred to as Coyote Time.
Okay.
From Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask why
Yeah.
Coyote Time.
From Wile E. Coyote.
I
It made
love
me
that.
So happy.
That's delightful.
I know.
I genuinely love that. That's so good. Oh, and I learned something today. Court Central,
That's bad translating
okay.
from handwriting to text. That's supposed to be crowd control.
Oh. That would normally be something we want to fix before we get into it, but it's a filthy casual episode, so who cares?
thought I got them all. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm just giving you shit. It's totally fine.
Tell them what crowd control is.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so crowd control is typically
I do know, I just can't figure out how to put it into.
So it's kind of like a category that you're going to give to abilities or weapons or something that are able to corral or control large groups of enemies all at once.
Yeah.
So as to make it more tolerable to, battle with them.
Yeah.
So, you might have somebody out there who's tanking on the front lines, taking a lot of hits and hitting people back, for a lot. But maybe you got somebody in the back who's doing an effect that slows all of the enemies down.
Right.
That would be a crowd control effect.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Makes sense. DBNO, down but not out.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, that would be classic multiplayer, something like a Halo or something like that. You get down by the enemy, but you're not dead. You just need to get revived or picked back up or something like that.
I put it on there because that's always one that I look at, the acronym DBNO, and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Down but not out.
I like it though.
Farming. Okay, so we're going to talk about grinding later.
That will happen.
Yeah.
In gaming terms.
Thank you, George.
Just want to make sure.
Grinding and farming are very similar. Farming is where you fight the same enemy or you go to the same area and loot the same things so as to get a desired item or items.
This is a big thing in stuff like Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
You're going for specific items that you're looking for, like rare loot, stuff like that. That's kind of, that's where farming kind of comes into play.
Absolutely. Ghost. I have Ghost on here just because anybody who is not familiar with it might not know what this is. So Ghost in this term is when you're playing a racing game and you can see the ghost of the high score or the best time. It's running on the track with you and you can see it, but it's not actually there. You can't interact with it.
Yeah.
That is a ghost.
Yeah.
That can show up in lots of other games. It's most typically seen in racing games.
In a racing game.
Typically in a racing game.
Hitbox. This is one I'm somewhat familiar with. It kind of is what the name sort of implies.
Yeah.
It is just to use an example again, like Halo, where you can get hit by things in the game. It's where the environment or anything else in the game can sort of affect you.
Mm-hmm. This is really important in fighting games,
yes.
Your Super Smash Brothers, your Tekken, things like that. Street Fighter. It's exactly what you said.
Yep.
It's the box that you can get hit in. And also, it's the box that your attacks do damage in.
Mm-hmm.
It's that overlap of your enemy's hitbox and your attack's hitbox that you want, because that's going to create damage on your opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it different than say, because I remember when they did the remake for not Banjo-Kazooie, the one where you're the little fox dude, Christ. Crash Bandicoot, sorry.
Oh.
When they did the HD remake for that game, a lot of people were upset that your box that your character would stand in switched from an actual box and they made it into a pill form, which meant that his standing on platforms changed. Because normally you kind of cheat a little bit and you'd be a little bit off.
Oh, I see.
But then it became since they made it rounder, you now had a less area in order to do things. Is that different than what the
No,
Hitbox
that's
would be?
exactly the same.
Same thing.
It's
Okay.
exactly the same. Because walls and boxes and platforms and things like that also interact with a character's hitbox. Not like the way we were thinking of it in like a fighting game, because that's like for damage. But that's going to be the way that the environment interacts with the character in like a platformer.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Cool. I was just curious. Wanted to make sure. This is kiting, correct?
Kiting, yes.
Kiting, I actually don't know.
So you are beset by enemies.
Yes.
And maybe there's like one that is like really powerful, and you could probably take him out if he didn't have all of his buddies with him. So you say, "Hey, you," and you drag him out away from the rest of the encounter.
I see.
And take him out one-on-one.
Gotcha.
That's kiting.
Using him.
And that, I mean, it's like a strategy. It's like a tactic.
Yeah.
Right? So that's applicable to like lots of different things. It could be in like a single player adventure game, or it could be in like an MMO, or like your Fortnite, or
I see what you mean. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Oh, I like it.
Yeah. So just kiting as if on a string away from the heated area.
Yeah. Now we have the Konami Code.
The Konami Code. You know the Konami Code?
I feel like I do.
It's one of those that you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
The Konami Code is this code and any variation. Up, down, left, right, B, A. That's the Konami Code. Lots of different iterations over the years. And it's not only applicable to Konami games, except it's seeped over into lots of other games.
Oh, yeah.
And pop culture.
Yeah. Because I was a Sega kid growing up. Like, I had the original Nintendo, and then I went to a Sega Genesis. And the general code for, like, level skipping or power-ups, and that is A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A. Just repeat it until it works, basically. So I always heard about Konami Code growing up, but it was never the one that I was the most familiar with.
Yeah, it's the up, down, left, right, B, A start. Sometimes, it just depends. Like are you familiar with the movie Wreck-It Ralph?
Yes.
So the Candy King guy, when he's going into like the wires in the back, the like memory. There's like an NES controller. That he has to input a code in to get in there. He puts in the Konami Code.
That's really fun. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
A little bit of
patch. That kind of what the name implies a little bit there. It's just like anything sort of added on, changed, or a code change for like the game after it's already been released, basically.
Typically to fix issues.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. If you ever want to have a delightful good time just reading through patch notes, I recommend going through patch notes for The Sims. Because it's always just really, really fun stuff, like can no longer set baby on fire. It's just like shit like that. Cannot romance the Grim Reaper. Just shit like that.
I like it.
Yeah. Tilt for our next term. That's way old school. That's a way old school gaming term because that goes back to pinball, if I'm correct.
Correct.
To literally tilting the actual like pinball machine.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you know what the modern usage of the term is?
I don't actually.
Okay, so what happens when you tip the pinball machine over? It tilts out and it stops working, right?
Yeah.
What happens when a gamer gets really upset about something that's happening and they have no control over it? Tilting.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tilting is when you're getting angry and you stop being able to function as a result.
So it's gone less from how the game reacts to how it is that you've reacted.
Yeah.
But I like it.
In so meaning that you cease to function.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very common in, and I'm speaking from my own experience here, Magic the Gathering.
Where you just stop and you just
like, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
This leads to rage quitting.
Yes. Which is a term we will get to.
Which we're going
to get to. And then you have raid, which are we talking in terms of like actual gaming terminology or something more like a Twitch or like a stream kind of thing? Because that's different.
Yeah, I was thinking in the more classic gaming sense of like doing a raid with your buddies.
Yeah.
So it's a style of gaming in...
This is like hopping into WoW or Destiny or something like that with your friends and just
exactly. And doing a raid. It usually means that you're up against like a horde of enemies or like one big boss, and you're all attacking it all at the same time. And you're all going to get like the same loot or the same experience or something like that. It's a multiplayer, multiple players participating in a single sort of event.
Yeah,
you could say.
Good memories. I have good memories for that. Rubber banding, I'm somewhat familiar
Do you
with,
know
but
what rubber banding is?
I don't totally know what it means.
Okay, so this is kind of an old term, but it can be used in a modern sense. And you'll kind of see what I mean in a second. So rubber banding is what is referred to as think of it like in a racing game. You could be like so far back from the guy in first, right? But you're still pretty much able to overtake him eventually and then get first, right?
Oh, okay.
But if you're in first, then that guy in second is like always on your tail.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's what rubber banding is referred to. Or
see.
that's what rubber banding refers to, is like the idea that you kind of get like a little bit of a boost when things aren't kind of going your way, but it's going to kind of help compensate the NPCs when it's going badly for them. So that's what rubber banding is. It's adaptive. When you boil it down, it's like adaptive difficulty.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that can occur in games nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not as visual as like, in a racing game. So you can actually visualize like a rubber band like kind of boosting somebody.
Right.
But the idea holds true.
Gotcha. Okay. I like it. So do we want to get into this next little bit of terms
go
then?
for it, yeah.
So these are ones that I looked up. I kind of want to look into a bit more, just like, I guess arguably you'd call it like the slang terminology for things and whatnot. Stuff that is a bit more gamer casual conversation. So first up, AAA versus indie titles. Pretty simple to understand that this would be, say, like something like a big game like Halo versus like something like Undertale. Whereas like something like Halo has a full dev team, a bunch of people, like hundreds of people working on it, and a different company that handles like distributing and like marketing and da-da-da-da-da. Whereas Undertale is maybe a team of like 5 to 10 people at most, and everyone's wearing multiple hats and working on a bunch of stuff. Both have their merits, both have their downsides, but that's just like the basic way to kind of put all of that. We here at 3VO believe in the merits of both because we play both basically. Yeah, just like if it's good, we're gonna like it. That's kind of what we fall into.
And some of my favorite games come from both sides, like both camps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Spiritfarer is one of my favorite games I've ever played. It's an indie title,
much smaller studio than
smaller
something
studio,
like
absolutely,
or something like that.
And like Dead Cells, that's an indie game.
Or
I'm trying to think, but like my favorite game is like Legend of Zelda, and that's a AAA title. So
Yep. Then the next thing you got, Rage Quit.
Rage Quit.
I think anyone who knows gaming,
I feel like we know,
becomes very familiar with this very quickly.
Because this isn't just cornhole to gaming.
You know,
Rage Quit from anything.
You get so frustrated and mad that you're just like, I'm fucking out. I can't do this anymore. I was wondering about including the next term because I feel like now this is a bit outdated. I don't know anyone who even uses pwned anymore.
If it came up, I would know what it means, but would I use it? No.
Fair enough. Pwned is a derivative. It is spelled PWND, but it's not an acronym, as it turns out. It's just derivative from own. It's just like, it's basically like you get that headshot on somebody in a game, or just like absolutely devastate somebody or a character in a game. It's just completely and utterly devastating them on a kill. It is own. Nowadays, I feel like more people use like a term like murked.
Yeah.
Murked feels a bit more modern to me. Like, I haven't heard pwned them all, but I've definitely heard murked a lot more. Sandbox gaming. That's like your pretty classically. That more refers to a style of game too. That's more like that's a Grand Theft Auto, where it's like you're given this huge area of play in a game, and you're just kind of allowed to like interact with it, sort of. There's normally a through line story like a GTA, like there is a main quest and whatnot, but you can kind of just go do whatever the fuck you want. Like, I know people who play sandbox games and they like never get to the main quest. Like Skyrim and Fallout are prime examples of just like, but again, falling into different categories and whatnot. But it's just like, I know people who are still playing Fallout and Skyrim, and they're like, I haven't even touched the main quest.
This is really interesting because I always considered a sandbox game to have like, I want to say like a godlike aspect to it. Like Minecraft, where you have like full control over the environment and you're like crafting things too.
Yeah.
Versus, versus like Skyrim, which I would consider open world.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of like a gray area almost, because like I could, you do get to like build a house and there's crafting and I
would argue on that then, just like arguably, yes, something like that would be more of an open world, but I would argue that just like then Minecraft is more of a pure sandbox.
Yes.
Because you are just exploring. But then also, it's an exploration game at that point, too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's like an RPG sandbox. It's
RPG
like
sandbox.
Almost,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. The next one, and this is one that has always been somewhat controversial growing up for me, is QTE, the QuickTime events.
Controversial? Tell me more.
Well, in the sense of like, in terms of gaming, it's like, it can either be, it's something that it is a great tool. It can be utilized very, very well. It can also be a quick, it's also at times felt like a quick cheat in games where it's like you didn't really know how to like make this moment playable for the character. You didn't know how else to do things, so let's just do a QuickTime event instead. Like a prime example for me is an older game called WETS, W-E-T. I don't remember, it's an acronym, I don't know what it stands for, but you're playing the game as an assassin, you're going through and killing stuff. And the final boss battle is just a QuickTime event that isn't even like hard to do. It's not even like difficult. It's like 3 buttons and that's it, and you're just done. So that's what I mean when I say controversial, is that it's like, for a while it was known as like the quick cheat in game development for like, I didn't know what else to do here, so fuck it, it's just a QuickTime event now. Yeah. But other games have used it a bit more creatively and intricately. Like some of the Resident Evil games have used QuickTime events and it's been used a bit better. Spider-Man, the one I'm playing right now, uses QuickTime events and they're fucking great. So, I don't know. It just kind of became a crutch for a while in gaming. Yeah.
Would you say that kind of ruined that final boss in that game for you?
100%. It made me hate the game because I was just like, because the game, it wasn't a great game, but it was really fun right up to that point. Because it felt like we're building to this big moment, and then it just fell flat. It just totally fell flat at the end there for me.
So the lack of a good final boss can ruin a game.
I'm going to throw you. I am going to fucking throw you.
I'm just gonna remember this.
Our Bioshock Infinite episode is gonna end the podcast. It's gonna ruin it. It's when we're gonna find out that we're not friends anymore.
No, don't say such things.
Next one. This one I love because it has survived the test of time for me all the way through, like when multiplayer online started. GG, good game.
Good game.
That is just, it is classic sportsmanship. It is just telling someone, yeah, it was a good game.
See, also the spamming of GG, which is not good sportsmanship.
It is not. That is someone being a dick.
Yeah.
That is someone being an asshole. That was someone who was getting yelled at in the game.
Yeah.
Who was either continuing that streak or was trying to gain some good favor at the end of the game finally. The next one that I have only recently, I literally had to ask somebody on TikTok. I'm old. I don't know what this means. Straight up. I asked in the comments, I was like, can somebody tell me what the fuck poggers means? And it's just like, it's expression of joy and excitement. Of just like, this is poggers, this gamer's poggers, this game is poggers. Like, it's become the general term for gaming.
I've never heard
this.
You've
never heard poggers?
No.
I see it all the time now.
Do you use it like as like to describe like the person like, oh, this streamer is totally poggers, or is it like, oh, that play was poggers?
It's a little bit different. So like something that happens is like, oh, that was poggers. But I think typically like when you give it to a person, I've heard the term pog champ get thrown around before.
PogChamp.
So I think it's kind of like if somebody does good, it's like, man, that guy's totally PogChamp. You know?
Wow.
I think. I like it though. Clutch player in the outnumbered match takes down the opposing player. That is like you're the last man standing in a game, and you manage to somehow still beat the game. It's like you're fucking coming in clutch.
Yeah, coming in clutch.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then finally,
not so finally.
Oh, not so finally. We have a whole other thing. I'm sorry, I skipped a bunch.
Fallen victim to double-sided
I did the double-sided page. It's fine. Not cool. So finally. It's something else to be finally now. Filthy Casualz. We have ganking. This comes from MMO, so I'm very unfamiliar with this one. But a multiplayer teaming up and taking on one or more players to eliminate them. Yep.
I don't know. In like casual language, I just refer to like as somebody getting ganked or like ganking. Yeah. As like somebody getting taken out. So that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
It tracks.
Yeah.
Then we have the one that both me and Brandon discovered today. We had no clue what the gaming term. And please tell us if we were just dumb and out of touch.
Like, is somebody trolling us? Like,
are we getting trolled? Because I've never in my life, I follow gaming podcasts. Like, I follow stuff on TikTok to make sure I'm up on shit. I've never heard this. Smurf.
Tell us what it is.
It's a player with a high skill set in gaming in terms who competes with players of low skill sets. Basically, you're like a level 20 playing against people who are like a level 5.
but not your account. Your account is like set back. Like,
Oh no,
have, like,
no,
a
sorry,
new account,
right.
right?
Yeah, you have a new account, but you yourself as a player have higher skills.
Yeah, like you've been playing this game for a long time. You're really, really good at it, but you like
Yeah.
fire up a new account so that you can play with like
Yeah.
the low level players and just
To make it a bit more familiar, this would be like someone who's like a pro player jumping in with just like randos just to like to show off their skills, basically.
yeah. I had never heard.
Never heard it before.
Smurf.
Never heard it before.
I feel like there's a different term that is maybe more popular.
I feel like I've heard something else to describe this.
like not sandbagging.
Maybe?
I don't know. Tell us in the comments.
Please let us know if we're just dumb.
Yeah.
But thankfully, back to stuff I'm very familiar with, thanks to my days in Halo, camping, which is a legitimate strategy. Because you're mad doesn't mean it didn't work. It's not breaking the game. You're doing everything right.
I didn't play Halo. So
Yeah.
you're fine.
But basically, it's something. It even says here in the definition, is which where a player gains a strategic advantage position by sitting in a particular position on the map. This is your person who will just kind of like squat behind a rock and wait for someone to run by, and they'll just like smack them and kill them real quick.
Yeah.
It works. People get mad, but it works.
Go over the rock if you're worried about people coming around.
Yeah, or watch your corners.
Yeah.
That's also something I've had a dude who screamed at me on a headset one time while playing Halo because I did camp. I just waited, and he ran by, and I smacked him, and he went "fucking camper," and he went "watch your corners," and then it was just garbled nonsense because he was so mad at what I had just said to him. Buff and Nerf. Basically, this is just sort of this is just refers to actual like dev stuff where it's like they kind of not screw with, but like I don't know how else to say it, but like they mess with the stats on like certain weapons or items in a game or something like that. Balancing is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
This is either like prime example for me would have been back in the day when we went from Halo 1 to Halo 2. You could headshot somebody in Halo 1 with the pistol and kill them in one shot. In Halo 2, they kind of nerfed the pistol a bit to where it was like, it's a pistol, guys. Like, you can't, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And people were very, very mad.
This happens a lot in games where there's a lot of different like weapons that you can choose
Yes.
from.
You'll see the balance shift on like a lot of different weapon classes.
Exactly. Because things will happen and like updates will happen and like new abilities will come out and then they'll go, oh, this sword with that ability is like way overpowered.
Yeah.
Let's dial it back. And then
Yeah.
they balance out that sword so that it's not OP, which we're going to get to.
Yes, we will. Then the next thing you got, and buff and nerf are just sort of like to make it clear.
Yeah.
So they're opposing ends of each other. So like
Yeah.
nerfing something is like scaling something back on power. Buffing something is sort of scaling it back up.
Nerfing it means to turn it into Nerf product.
Yeah, pretty much. Toxic. It's just someone who sucks. Like there's no other way to put it. It's just like you're playing with somebody and it's like, listen, I played multiplayer online for a long time. There is a level of shit talking that is accepted, and there should be. There always should be, because it's like to me that's the spirit of competition. You sit there, you talk shit on somebody, but then at the end of it, you go like, okay, cool. To me, toxic is the person who just like doesn't leave it in the game, or it's just like it's way too mean. Just like that, we had it. Oh my god. We had it a while back where we were playing with our buddy Connor, and he had us jump into a Team Fortress game.
Oh my god, I remember this.
And we joined some randos online, and just immediately, so many racial slurs just started getting thrown around, and we were just like, we are three white boys, and we are very uncomfortable right now. So that to me is just someone just like, it's not even like fun to play with them anymore, because it's just like, it's so gross.
There's like casual, fun shit talking.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's like vehemently like inappropriate bad shit talking.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, like a current example for me would be like yesterday we were playing D&D. I rolled 2 natural ones in a row and got innocent people in the town killed. and I got kind of ripped for it.
Kind of a lot.
A lot of it was just, it did get to a point where I had to be like, okay, I got it, guys, thanks.
It's cool, because
Yeah.
then I also maybe killed villagers. It's fine.
Possibly. But it was just like,
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But it was my friends. I knew they didn't mean anything by
Yeah.
it. It was just general, like, and my love language is shit talking. So, you know, it makes sense to me. But just like someone you don't know who maybe gets a little bit like too personal on shit,
Yeah.
or just like thinks that they're gonna be cool because they can like, because it's the anonymity thing we're talking about earlier. Just like they could just like say the N word over and over again online because nobody can actually touch them. It's like that's just that's toxic shit right there.
Mm-hmm.
Cheesing, another strategy. That requires minimal skill or knowledge for the players to defeat the enemy. A prime example of this to be again would be something like Halo. There's it more commonly got referred to as like a noob combo, but you'd hit somebody with the plasma rifle blast at full power. It would take down their shields, and then you just one shot them with a pistol.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good combo.
It's a good combo, but it's commonly, for me, cheesing is always commonly referred to as like exploiting stuff in the game that wasn't necessarily meant to be used in that fashion, like a bug or a glitch or something like that in terms of like a strategy.
Okay. Like I don't know. It's one thing I feel like if it's like a glitch or something, because then it's like, okay, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Come on, that's one thing. Like I feel like that's cheating. But if like it's just developer given powers from a couple of guns that you have,
That's true.
get good.
That's true. Okay, maybe mine wasn't the best example.
No. I'm sure that a lot of people felt the same way that you do and did about it. But I don't know, like if that's what the guns do, that's what the guns do.
That's fair. That is fair. Okay, then more specifically, it'd be like exploiting a glitch or a bug in the game.
Okay.
Next one you got, which is similar to what we talked about with farming, which is grinding, but grinding more specifically refers to just like going for XP. This is what I'm experiencing right now with Final Fantasy. And I'm just sitting outside the boss's like fucking lair and just getting XP to power myself up as much as I can.
There's a level of grinding, like if I feel like there's a limit. Like if a game requires a certain amount of grinding, then it becomes not fun for me.
Yeah. But then there's some things like that have the great balance for it. Like the Spider-Man game I'm playing right now. There's a level up system to it, and there's a skill set system to it. And the game gives you a bunch of stuff that you can run around and do. And I'm not doing the main quest right now. I'm just having fun just running around the city and just doing all the side quest stuff. So
see, I like it when it's like you grind through side quests, because then it still feels like you're functionally doing something in the game. I get deterred or like turned off when it's like, okay, you've done everything, there's no side quest for you to do, you're like ready to move on to the next boss or something, but you can't beat that boss until you gain like 5 more levels, so like just go make that happen and then come back. Then I'm like then
that feels like just like you didn't want to bother trying to like to sort of like establish a good leveling system to make sure that I was ready for this moment.
I feel like it should be pretty smooth. You shouldn't have to grind for like hours
and hours
to make it happen, as long as you're like going through and hitting all of the points on the roadmap up to that point. If you're like skipping over stuff,
if you're just like skipping battles, like I used to do Final Fantasy, where I'd just be like, nope, run away, and then be like, why can't I kill anything in the boss fight? Because I skipped everything.
See, for me, Pokemon used to have that problem. Not so much anymore, because they kind of balanced it out and made the experience system a lot better, in my opinion. But yeah, it used to be like, okay, you can like level up this one Pokemon at a time. And like maybe halfway through the game you get experience share and you can do 2 Pokemon at once.
Yeah.
But it was not very good. It's much better now.
Yeah. This is why I like the system for like something like a Mass Effect, where it's kind of like you level up and your other characters are leveling up with you. I don't have to take like Garrus out to make him level up, as opposed to like
Could you imagine?
Well, I'm like, no, I wouldn't play it.
Me either.
Wouldn't play it. So finally, we have OP, which is overpowered.
Kind of an anticlimactic.
a little bit. This referred to like a player or a character or something in a game that is just like, it's just too much. That's it. There's just too much. Like, I'm trying to think of like, Mass Effect's a pretty good example. As we've seen from that speed one we watched. What's the weapon that just launches the nuke?
What's it called?
I forget what it's called, but that's that.
Avalanche? No, that's not
I think it's the Avalanche.
Is it?
I think it might be.
Did I pull that out of my ass?
I think it might be the Avalanche. Who knows?
Whatever fires the nuke, though, that will win you the game.
It will win you. You just walk in, boof, boom, and you just gain XP.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think for stuff like that, something like that can be useful, because like for someone like you or me who has played the shit out of Mass Effect, there's levels in that game and combat in that game that I still love doing and going through. But then there's stuff like the side quest that he did where it's nothing but the big
the big mechs that are going for the crates.
The big mechs that are going through the crates, and there's like 12 of them.
I know.
No, screw that. Bam! Boom,
Done.
I'm done. I'm out. Thank you. I just needed to get that mission done for the 100%. Like, that's
Right.
it. I don't want to sit there and grind killing mechs right now. Thank you very much. But yeah.
Yeah.
For something like that, but for the most part, OP just kind of refers to like a weapon. I mostly hear it in the games where it's like it's a weapon that is just like way fucking overpowered.
Weapon or even like a class
Yeah.
or an ability, a magical spell, anything that is...
Again, talking about
overpowered.
D&D, let's talk about fucking druids for a second. Like, Jesus Christ, the shit that druids can do is insane.
It's a, you know,
Again, 99 damage in one go.
At level, what are we now?
6, we're at 6.
Yeah, level 6.
Jesus Christ. I'm going to be scared of you by the end of this campaign.
Good.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. We know it's still a little bit different than how we normally run things, but we still hope that it was fun and engaging, and maybe we can help people who are a little bit less familiar with the gaming community kind of have that nice little like gateway into it. But also, if we missed anything of those terms that we screwed up or something that you think we need to cover more, please let us know.
And as always, if you have any ideas for future discussions that we can have on the show, you can send us an email at 3vopodcastteam@gmail.com, and you can give us your ideas. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything, everywhere. We are at 3VO Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, everything. You know what to do. It really helps. So please interact with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.